derby. Yeah. You've had 7 days without a game, which is a novelty. How have you made best use of it?
Yeah, it's been nice. Obviously a fantastic result against Portsmouth. It's our 4th game in 10 days, so I thought the squad were terrific in terms of the intensity that we played at, and to come away with all 3 points was a real relief, which we obviously hadn't managed to do in a couple of the games leading up to that. So it was a nice way to kind of finish a busy period for us. And this week's been nice. Obviously we've had a full week's training, a chance to fully prepare the team for the game on Sunday.
And it's been physically demanding, obviously, that run of games, but has it helped to build momentum? I know you've not got the points you necessarily wanted or felt you deserved, but the performances have been...
The performances have been really good. I think some players prefer to go game rather than a lot of training in between. And I thought we found some really good rhythm, game to game, and the squad robustness was really good in terms of, there's a lot of players played a lot of minutes. So yeah, like I say, there were some really good performances in there, and we need to continue that between now and the end of the season.
And probably without naming names, you're welcome to if you want, but have people played their way into a derby team across the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think we've been pretty consistent over the 4 games that we've played. Obviously thinking about the 2 moments in the 2 games where we've conceded really late, we could have had a lot more points on the board than where we currently sit. But I think we have to take the positives, and that there's been some really strong performances, some dominating performances as well, creating a lot of chances, particularly against Portsmouth. I said after the game I thought it could have been 5 or 6 quite easily, and watching the game back during the week with the players, they can see that as well in terms of the chances that we created. So they're real positives for us, and we have to continue that kind of attack and form, and defensively be solid, which we have been over the last couple of games.
What have you got to play for in the last 4 games of the season? If you look at the league table, the answer is nothing, but there's more to it than that.
Yeah, we've got some internal targets, which stays between the team. We've got 4 games. We want to be finishing higher up than where we currently sit. We've got ourselves into a good position from where we were probably just before Christmas. We're in good form. There's a lot of confidence within the group. So, our target is to try and win, every game between now and the end of the season, and see where we finish.
Do you build up the occasion of a derby internally, or do you downplay it?
I think it's just another game. Yes, it's important, but we're certainly not doing more just because it's Newcastle. Our processes stay the same. Yes, it's a huge game for the city and for both football clubs. We're well aware of that. We've played in 3 derbies now against them. We're fully aware that we haven't won one yet. So again, that's kind of at the forefront of our minds as well. But we want to first and foremost keep our levels high. We know we're in good form, and make sure we put a performance out there that's going to get some points.
You talk about the fact you haven't beaten them yet in the league. Has there been a pattern to those 3 games that you've seen and you therefore use ahead of Sunday, or are they just all unique? Yeah,
I think they've been pretty close. We were disappointed with the game at St James's, conceding off two corner kicks. Again, our setup's changed since then, and it's probably changed again since then again. So, we learn from every game we play. We learn from the mistakes that we make, and we have to make sure that we don't make any on Sunday.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Hi Mel. You've got 4 fixtures left. Where does this match sit in terms of importance in those 4? Is this one different?
I think it's got a different feel, of course, because it's a derby. But every game's important. You can only take 3 points from each game, so in that respect, we want points on the board, and we want to finish aspirationally higher up than where we currently are. But we know it's a big game for the fans. Like I just said, we know we haven't beat them yet, so it's on our home turf. So we want to put a performance in that everyone can be proud of.
Newcastle have still got a good chance of promotion or a playoff place. If you beat them, then that chance is a lot less. Would there be some satisfaction to be had for the players and the staff if you could maybe keep them in WSL2 next season?
That's kind of not something that we would think about. It's, we ultimately know 3 points would close the gap between us and them, and that's our target.
And I know you probably wouldn't have been able to watch much of the men's derby, but the men have done the double over Newcastle this season. Does that give some inspiration? Have you had any advice as to what you can do to carry on that good feeling this weekend? Yeah,
I think that's important. I think, when by the time we kicked off on Sunday against Portsmouth, they just scored the last minute winner, and you have to take inspiration from that. We're a proud football club. We want to win games of football, I think the players can see how important it was for the city and for the fans, and certainly we want to replicate that.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Well, when people look back and sort of judge your season, how much better do you think they'll judge it if you've got a win over Newcastle in there?
Who knows? Look, I think we've had a bit of a roller coaster season. I think we've kicked ourselves at times from the points that we've dropped, especially over like I said, over the last couple of games where we give away a penalty in the last 30 seconds. We could easily be 4 points better off, and you can go way back to the apology that we got for the handball at Southampton, and we could be sitting a lot closer to that kind of promotion spot. So we've been inconsistent at times, and that's mainly due to our own fault at times through decision making. But yeah, it's important that we're focused and ready for Sunday.
Touched on it at the start about the position you find yourself in. How difficult is your job and the coaching staff's job at this point, where there is that you've got to keep ultra professional, but in a way you're not going for either A or B, so to speak?
Yeah, I think for the integrity of the league, we're playing against teams who are fighting for promotion and fighting to stay in the league. So our processes stay the same, and ultimately it's my job to make sure that we get points out of the games we play. So we'll be fully professional in the way that we prepare for the game. Cheers.
It's obviously a big game this week. Have you noticed a little bit of maybe relief, a little bit of freedom off the back of getting over the line against Portsmouth? Because obviously the table looks much more secure now.
Yeah.
You lost that game, you might still have a bit of work to do. So can you flip it and take the positives and maybe the pressure lifted a little bit?
Yeah, I think the performance was massive against Portsmouth. We found ourselves in a position where we needed to pull away from them in terms of the 9 points difference if we win. But I think we had to take the positives from the performances previously, that they were good. We just hadn't really got over the line with the 2 penalties at the death. So it was a huge game, and it was a really, really positive performance. I was really pleased with how comfortable we looked on the ball, how many chances we created. It was uncomfortable and uncomfortable at the same time, because the closing stages of the game, they were obviously throwing the kitchen sink, but in them dying moments we did stand strong, and that was lessons learned from previous games. So it's obviously a big game, and the shackles are off a little bit because we know we're okay, but aspirationally we want to be higher up, so we'll be giving everything to try and go and win the game.
You mentioned the fans earlier there. Is it something you spoke about this week? Because obviously the record you've got against Durham is something that the fans are very proud of. I'm sure players and staff have got. Traditionally, really, that's been the main sort of competitive rivalry. But is it something that you think that internally you're kind of conscious of how big a deal it would be to win this game for the sport?
Yeah, I think so, and we're conscious that we're going to be playing in front of the biggest home crowd of the season at the Stadium of Light. We want to entertain the fans. We want to make them proud of the result. We know they're proud of the team because they turn out week in, week out at Appleton. But there's no hiding from the magnitude of the game. It's a local derby. We're well aware of that. We know we haven't won one yet. So yeah, the team's fully focused and chomping at the bit to get going on Sunday.
We were speaking about psychologically moving forward the rest of the season, but also next year, it could be a really big deal to get it, as you mentioned, from the biggest crowd to get a really important result.
Yeah, it's important. We have to try and grow the game. We have to try and grow the crowds, and we know that we can do that by good performances. Fans will come back. There'll be loads of new fans in the stadium who've maybe not watched the team for a while, and you want to hook them in, and you hook them in by playing well and getting points.
Beat Newcastle.
It certainly would, yeah. Cheers.
Is it just nice to have 7 days between 2 games for a start?
Yeah, it's been quite a busy couple of weeks with Sunday, Wednesday, so gives us a bit more contact time on the grass, whereas before it's more focused on recovery. So definitely good leading into the derby to have a bit more contact time in terms of our prep.
I was going to ask how you benefit from having, and it's not 6 days because you've got days off, but what do you use that extra time for? Is it recovery? Is it analysis? Is it tactics, for want of a better word?
Yeah, whenever you have condensed fixtures, ultimately your time on the grass is going to suffer because a good bulk of the squad is playing, 60, 70 plus minutes. So sometimes for the benefit of the following game, you need to just really prioritize recovery. So you can't really get much out of the training sessions. It's more like technical delivery or tactical delivery, whereas this week we can have a bit more of a normal week in terms of getting load and things like that. So that's probably the biggest difference. But you still have the recovery of, you know, the congested fixtures. I know personally I slept about 10, 11 hours after that fourth game because it's just, it all catches up to you. But yeah, the recovery hopefully has been done now and we're just on to the loading part of the week.
Yeah, and talking about the 4 games, Mel's said that she felt you hadn't got the results necessarily that the performances deserved. Is that how the players feel about it?
Yeah, I think overall we've been quite happy with the performances we've put out. I think especially in the first 3 games, I think the level of intensity, considering how condensed the fixtures were, was really good. I think I felt for some of the girls in the team, because I felt like, for example, Demi I think's had some really good performances and probably didn't get what she deserved either in the Sheffield or the Nottingham game, where giving away penalties. And to be fair to her, she's making, in the Nottingham game she makes 2 saves, but you know, you can't be giving away really good opportunities like that. So I think the overall feeling was, yes, we've been putting in good performances, but then going into Portsmouth, it was like, right, we need to now turn these performances into more convincing wins. I wouldn't say we necessarily did that with a 1-0 win, but I think in terms of our shots on target and things like that, we had every opportunity to make it a more comfortable win than it was. But at the end of the day, the win was the most important thing.
This is going to sound like a daft question, but I think you're 9 points off the playoff spot and 9 points off the relegation spot as well. So you're sort of marooned in the middle.
Yeah.
What have you got to play for in the last 4 games?
You know, pride first and foremost. This is obviously probably one of the best games. This or playing Durham would be the best game to play for pride in the Northeast to get that. You know, people are playing for their position still. There's been obviously some changes in the team in terms of starting 11 and things like that. So as a footballer, while in the table you might not feel like you have anything to play for, like you're playing to play at your best every time, and if you're not, then you have every opportunity to be dropped for the next game because the manager is going to want to win every game.
And you just mentioned about giving other teams chances in games. Newcastle, I know you're focused on yourselves, but Newcastle are good enough that they're the kind of team that will take any opportunity you give them.
Yeah, I mean, there's no getting away from the fact that we haven't beat them since they've come into the WSL2. So first and foremost, that's something that we need to get over, that hump. We need to get over the fact that we haven't beaten them and try to put that right and put in a good enough performance to do so. Obviously, they have some very good players, some very clinical players. So we're just going to have to do our best to neutralise that and then just be a bit more clinical on the other end.
And just lastly for me, using the crowd as well, presumably using home advantage is a bigger thing at the stadium. Like literally there are more people.
Yeah, definitely. Personally, I don't mind it either way. Like noise just makes the game feel that much more exciting in general. Obviously, it's more of a benefit when it's your own fans that are the bulk of the noise. But yeah, I think that's something that hopefully, you know, having last season as well with the big attendances that we got at both stadiums, a lot of the girls will be accustomed to that now, and we can channel that in the best possible way.
Thank you.
Hiya.
Hi.
You've got 4 fixtures left. How important is the derby in the context of those games?
Yeah, so going off the fact, you know, if you look at our position in the table, while we might not, we're kind of bang in the middle, like the teams that we're coming up to play against have quite a lot to play for. So we actually could have a really big hand in dictating who at the end of the season gets that promotion slot. Obviously, first and foremost, it's for us, our target is to finish as high as possible. So getting 4 wins is giving us the best possible chance to do that. But considering we're playing, I think 3 of the 4 teams are in the kind of running for promotion at the minute, like that's a very big undertaking to try to make it as hard as possible for them, as competitive as possible for the league, that people earn the right to get promoted.
I suppose therefore there's an opportunity here to maybe deny Newcastle a spot in the playoff or even an automatic spot. Would there be some satisfaction to be had for stopping them getting up into the next game?
I think the most satisfaction would be the fact that it'd be the first time we beat them. I think that would be the biggest thing, because even if we did win, they still have 3. They also have 3 games left, and I haven't looked deep enough into the table to know how much that would impact them and what games they have left in their run. So all we can do is do it for ourselves, really. But I'm sure that's something they probably might be looking at as a potential banana skin in their route to promotion, but you just don't know.
Did the team all watch the men's derby and Sunderland's win at St James's Park? And is there inspiration that you can draw from that to try and win your own one?
You know, we would have loved to watch it, but we were literally got to watch like 5 minutes and then we were at the ground for our game. But right before we went out, I believe Steph came in and said that like the men had clinched it right at the end. But we didn't like actually watch the game. But yeah, it's an incredible feeling. I feel like we were also away when they played at the Stadium of Light, so we haven't got to see either of those games. But both games, by all accounts, from people that I know that have gone to them, have been really exciting. And yeah, you see how much it means, you know, to the city and the club and the players. You know, players that aren't even from here, you can see how much they care and how much they know it means to everyone in the area.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Just following on from that, I mean, you explained that you didn't actually watch the game as such, but when you've seen the reaction to last week, can you take inspiration from what the club did then and what you could do this weekend? Yeah,
absolutely. I think, you know, even in the times when we've played Newcastle, like you feel the buzz, you feel the gravity of the game, you feel how much it means to people, and it means a lot to the girls in both teams. You have some girls in each team that are fans of the club that they're playing for, and personally I've been up in Scotland for the Rangers Celtic Old Firm, and it's very similar in the sense, especially the girls I was playing for Rangers who are big Rangers fans, and they really tell you how much it means to the city. And same with we got to go to some men's games for that, and you know, it's the type of atmosphere that you want to be a part of, and I just hope that the women's game is getting more and more in that direction. Hopefully it continues to be a big deal and be a source of pride for the area in general, not just the men's side, but also the women's side. So,
thank you.
That's okay.
Your record against Durham obviously has been amazing for such a period of time. Is there anything you can take from how you've managed those occasions? Because traditionally that's been a big, obviously, rivalry in the divisions you've been in. Do you think there's anything you can take from how you did manage those occasions?
Yeah, I think in the sense of it being a derby is the biggest one. I think Durham and Newcastle are very different teams to play against. And like you say, because Durham and Sunderland have played each other far more times, you almost get a familiarity with each other. Whether or not that's been beneficial with how we've been able to win those games, I'm unsure. I'm pretty sure when I came in was the first season we didn't lose to Durham before I came to the club. I think they struggled against Durham at times. So they are very different teams, but I think you can take the importance of each game being the same, and the energy that you need to bring in, things like that. But definitely the prep would be different in certain aspects because they are very different teams.
And what would it mean to you personally as a leader in the group in that dressing room to be part of the team that gets that, hopefully that win over Newcastle for that record you mentioned over the last couple of years?
Yeah, that would be incredible. I think that would probably be, as you say, because there's not, quote, much to play for us in the minute. That would be a big highlight of the season for us to finally get that first win. Obviously, we have beat Newcastle before, but they haven't been in our league at the time, so it is a little bit different. But yeah, I think that would be massive for the group. And sometimes you feel like you just need that first win to believe that it's possible to do it, instead of, you know, always just getting there and falling short. Like I say, when I was in Scotland, Celtic was that team for us one season, as we couldn't beat them, and it felt like that was the team we just couldn't get over that hump. And then my second season, we ended up doing it, and we won the league that year. And that was like a big reason, because we found a way to turn that game into a game that obviously propelled us to win. Obviously that won't be the same case here, but I think it's something that hopefully if we can get a good result, then that's something we can take into, you know, the following season, pending what Newcastle do with the rest of their season.